My 26F boyfriend, 26M, of 3 years abruptly dumped me via text because of someone else's Facebook. A few minutes ago my boyfriend of 3 years dumped me via text. It really shocked me, and his reasoning was that he found a Facebook profile that was apparently mine, it's not, and that I was a lying beach who plays games and that we were done. This completely came out of left field. Last we spoke, which was not even 2 hours ago, everything seemed fine. I'm a few hours away ATM because I was visiting my family for Father's Day. Also, I've been helping my dad because a car accident that has left him disabled. It's been really hard for him, so I decided to spend a weekend with him. My boyfriend had to stay behind because of work. My phone was on vibrate and I woke up to it vibrating somewhere in my room. He called twice in a row, which is a little unusual, so I tried to call him. A part of me was worried something bad happened because he never just calls seconds apart. He forwarded my call to VM after one ring, and then I got a string of enraged texts. First was a picture of a profile of some woman who shares my name, and the rest were filled with anger. How I played him for a fool and that he was done playing games. Firstly, the woman in the pic looks nothing like me. She has black hair and blue eyes. I have auburn hair and green eyes. I also have a beauty mark above my lip on the left-hand side, and this woman has nothing. My boyfriend blocked my number, Facebook, and all that lovely stuff, and I am at a loss. This is all very sudden and all I feel is anger and pain. I don't want my dad to hear me crying. He has enough on his plate to deal with. A little background: my boyfriend cheated on me a few months into the relationship and I didn't learn about it until a year later. I ended up forgiving him and things seemed fine. He was remorseful and did his damnedest to regain my trust. I can't help but wonder if he did this because he did something wrong and wants an excuse for it, or he wanted to dump me in order for him to cheat without cheating. Tomorrow is his birthday too. I wonder if he wants to be free for that day. It just makes me cry. I won't be taking him back. No way in hell. He's living in my house, nothing is in his name, he can F off. Right now I'm kind of shattered at the moment because I invested so much time and emotion in this person. I forgave him when he cheated on me, and now he's pulling random Facebook profiles out of his ass to use to break up with me and say I'm the shady one. What can I do to help myself? I am really at a loss right now. Thank you. TLDR, boyfriend of 3 years dumps me via text accusing me of having another Facebook despite the fact the woman in the profile looks nothing like me and the only thing we have in common is our name. How do I move on and heal from such a callous action? Update June 17, 2014. Thank you guys for your encouraging words and wisdom, it's helped out a lot. Myself and 6 other people went to my house this morning, including my brothers and lawyer uncle. My ex was sitting in his computer room playing LOL, seemingly oblivious that I came home and anyone entered the room. I promptly tapped him on the shoulder and asked him to turn off the game and pack his stuff. He shrugged my hand off and continued to talk to his teammates through what I assume was Skype or TeamSpeak. My patience for his BS is in the negative, so I bent down and unplugged the surge protector from the wall. My ex flung the headset that I bought him off of his head and it bounced off his monitor. He stood up screaming how that was a ranked game and that I was fucking up his stats or whatever he was foaming about. My brother stepped between us and told him that he had 10 minutes to pack his things and only his things before we called the cops to have him removed. We all stepped out of the room and watched him unplug his computer and neatly stack his stuff. He tried to take my Ethernet cable and I was like, nah. A friend brought in a box and we watched him go through the house taking the seldom things he owned, all the while texting away on his phone. It turns out he was saying some ugly things on his FB, but whatever. That is childish stuff and water off a duck's ass to me. He tossed the box of clothes, sneakers, and DVDs/console games into the back seat of his shitty 1995 Honda and then made it a process to take his computer out. He was more concerned his LOL game and his computer than me. He didn't make eye contact or speak to me. There was just an air of hostility that I can't even explain. I can't comprehend how someone could just suddenly hold such animosity towards someone they apparently loved. I sat on the stairs watching him go back and forth, my friend Jess recording the whole process on her cell phone just in case. She's pretty clever, LOL. It was really hard. I felt anger brewing under the indifferent exterior I was showing. A part of me wanted to throw an egg at the back of his smug head, but I know that it isn't worth it. He isn't worth any energy, negative or positive. The whole process took about 15 minutes and we all watched on my lawn as he drove away. My uncle gave a big hug and left, and the rest of us ate pizza and watched some TV. As uneventful as it was, the whole experience was draining. It's easy when there are people around to talk to and occupy my mind, but when I'm alone what he did keeps popping into my head and I start to get anxious. I tossed all of my bedding and sprayed my couches and chairs with deodorizer in the lame attempt of exorcising whatever foul things he may have done. I know, irrational, LOL. Today I'm going to be heading to Bed Bath & Beyond to buy some new bedding and treat myself. I realized that being with him I didn't really love myself, I was too preoccupied with appeasing him. Any action I took in spoiling myself, whether it be new clothes, a game, or makeup, was met with suspicion. It was all in his whacked out head. Being alone after being in a relationship for such a long period of time is daunting. I know I'll be fine if not awesome after getting that cancer out of my life. I had to set up a rule with my friends and family to not talk about him to me because a friend texted how he was flooding his Facebook with pictures of himself smiling and being happy. I don't want to hear it. If he's happy that he is a resident of his mom's basement and cheats on good women with gutter scum, then so be it. In the end, whether it be 6 months from now, a year, 5 years, whatever, something in his brain will click and he will realize the massive fuck up he did the last few days. As crappy as it sounds, I hope it makes him miserable. I will be changing my locks despite taking his copy of his keys, and I think I will add extra security just in case. When he was a teen, he vandalized houses of people he didn't like, and judging from his behavior, I wouldn't put it past him to do it again. Also, I am going to the doctor tomorrow to get tests done. I don't feel anything wrong, but I won't be taking chances. This whole thing has been a life experience. He hasn't ruined any future relationships for me. He did me a favor to up my standards and reinforce my self-worth. I know what to look out for now, and I know what kind of person I deserve. Thank you again, you guys. You brought a lot of great points and it helped tremendously. TLDR, went home with an entourage consisting of big burly brothers and a lawyer. X had a temper tantrum that I interrupted his ranked LOL game to kick him out. Priorities. Other than that, it was peaceful. Going to splurge on nice things today, and tomorrow I will be getting STI tests done. Thank you so much for words of encouragement and compassion. Story 2. My 35M mother's 58M new fiancé wants me to call him Dad. He's 24. How do I navigate this? Please buckle in because this is all so weird. I'm a 35-year-old man, and for some backstory, my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my 2 siblings. I'm the oldest. It took some time, but eventually my mom started dating again. We don't live together per se, but our houses back onto each other and have a gate, so it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry or me just go over for dinner or go look after our dog, that kind of stuff. Plus, me and my siblings go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started, the men she's been dating have been getting younger and younger, and I've never had a problem with them. She's been very open to me and my siblings that she wants to get married again, and we've always been supportive. At least after the initial shocks, lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious, and they've been dating since around last June? He proposed at the start of autumn and they want to get married next summer. Again, me and my siblings are fine with this because it's her life and we trust him. He's a nice guy and they clearly love each other. But anyway. So long and short is, this weekend, her fiancé, let's call him Phil, calls me and asks me if I could come over. I say yes, sure, I'll be over after work, and I assumed he just needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I get over there, he calls me sport and says we need to talk. I should mention this is something he does to me and my little brother, calling us things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favorite, calling us red and blue seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30, by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, too, once, and called her princess once, but he stopped when she just stared at him. So thing with Phil is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses, in that his sole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married, and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother made some joke about how maybe our mom's going to come short on the last part, and he got very upset, but they made up after. Anyway, so I go round and I ask if my mom's around, and he says no, it's just him and that we really need to talk man to man. I say sure, and he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father, etc., and raise a son to call his own, and then he drops this bombshell by saying, now I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me Dad. I'll admit it, I sniggered a little. And then I knew he was serious because he looked like he was about to cry. And he didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it, and he got really emotional and started talking about what it means to be a man and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family, and he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. Like he reiterated he'll never replace my father, and this did rub me the wrong way a bit, but he's ready to step up and be my dad and provide for and protect me and my siblings. And I'm just sat there thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for, and even if I did, I don't think a guy a third of my age who works part-time at the hardware store and is into collecting manga is the man to do it. No offense if you are into that, lol, just, I dunno, I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock, so just said okay, and he gets emotional again, but in a happy way, talking about how he wants to go camping or go to a baseball game. I don't even like baseball, LMAO, and how he joined the Lions this year and how he wants to bring me into it too as his boy, which just feels so surreal, even more so as I'm a Shriner, so all this talk of service and charity isn't the brag he thinks it is. Because again, I'm 10 years older than this guy. Well, I ended it by just saying, this has gotten a bit too weird, and I was going home. He got very upset and I left, called my brother and he agreed it sounds weird as fuck. Later my mom called me and she wasn't disappointed but admitted it's made him very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get he's excited about the marriage and we can just laugh this off as a funny story. She then said that wasn't what he was upset about. He, and she too a bit, is upset about the fact he poured his heart out and I rejected him. She said yeah, it is a bit kooky, but this is how he proves to himself he's a man, and I guess I was a bit angry and said something like, first off, it's not my job to certify what's between his legs, and second, this doesn't prove he's a man, it just proves he's a nutjob. I apologized immediately, but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called back 10 minutes later and we apologized and she begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. I won't go too much into the details here, but she sort of let slip they plan to try IVF treatment because she's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. And while I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate on that. We finished up fine and I reiterated I'd support her and she agreed that it was definitely a stressful situation for me but begged me to at least think about it. Which leads me to here. I did think it over and obviously I'm going to say no. I had a dad and he died, rest in peace dad, and that's the only dad I've ever needed, I've ever wanted, and I'll ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone's unreasonable or what I should do, more so what I should say. This clearly means a lot to him for some reason and I deeply love my mom, so want to try and minimize the damage. Especially as we're still so involved in each other's lives and they live behind me. How can I make it clear to them, as painlessly as possible, that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the band-aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit, showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing lol, then said we should call him Dr. Phil and each other Blue and Red, so swap the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? Edit 2, as people were asking, he has no access to my mom's money or anything like that. She rents the house and it came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She doesn't make a lot of money anyway, so there's no pecuniary motive we could think of. Update post, November 16, 2024, 4 days later. Anyway, so I told both my siblings and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Phil at our next family dinner next week. Especially after an incident where Phil referred to my brother as sport and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with no tickets for me daddy pleading face, and my brother responded with daddy wants to me all to himself hot winking face, and Phil took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless and disgusted. He then messaged me in private to say he was utterly appalled and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. I kind of lost it at this point and said, right, that's because you're not my father, Phil, you're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets. I immediately said sorry but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently he sent a similar thing to my brother who responded with more daddy stuff and Phil blocked him. Well, that aside, I don't think that family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever, and Phil has either been expelled or resigned or in the process of one of the two. He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media and no longer mentions being a member, with his last post on it being some cryptic goodbye post where he kinda drones on about what it means to be a man in the modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird shit. My mom called me half in a panic, half in a rage after, about that stuff I'd been telling about him before, breaking down and saying we need to meet, which we did and got my brother to go over too. I know he has temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding they still want to go ahead with the wedding. But I think that's more so because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, my brother did step up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age, and I pointed out that assuming she had the baby next year, and she lived to 80, they still wouldn't have finished college. She just stammered on about how people live longer these days before breaking down crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart that I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down and we had a very good honest conversation where she's agreed to drop the IVF stuff on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit, but she's still adamant it's scientifically possible and she should be allowed to do it from an ethical standpoint because she has to win that argument, uneasy face, and has agreed to look into fostering instead. Me and my brother highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not that worried anymore. The very good news is she's also agreed to look into therapy/psychiatric help to deal with her trauma, and we've helped get her in touch with a nice lady in town to unpack all this in a more healthy way. So at least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened with Phil or what's going to happen with him, but I did make it clear to my mom that he is not my dad, he's not even my stepdad, I'm not a kid. And he's never going to be either one outside of legal fuckery. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least, and we've agreed that if things go ahead that's going to be a huge red line, though I dunno if he'll want to be friends with me after all this LMAO. Anyway, thanks for the help on the original post, y'all. Update, same post November 17, 2024, next day. Edit, bit of an update as I can't respond to everybody, but I think the marriage is off. Phil has gone AWOL again and has had a huge argument with his family as they've demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. Me and my mom have met his mom and older brother, who said Phil is very insecure around girls his own age and has never been able to talk them, hence his preference. This very deeply upset my mom, and after some begging from all of us, she has agreed to push the wedding back, though she wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Phil is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his D&D friends who have been sending me and my brother some not nice messages because clearly we're just jealous of the MILF hunter. If any of you socially inept fucks are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folk because I can talk to boys my own age like a normal person. Peace. Story 3, Ada for going off on my pregnant SIL after repeatedly being disrespected and ignored by her? My boyfriend, M30, and I, F25, had just gotten married in May of this year after being together for 5 years. For context, my now husband's family has an interesting history and dynamic. I describe them as very multicultural and diverse. My FIL is Black/Arab mixed, and my MIL is White/Persian mixed. As a result, their extended families are spread around the world. My husband has 3 more siblings, an elder brother and 2 younger brothers. I am not sure if this is important, but I am Asian. So, my husband was studying in my home country, which is how we met. He has also lived and worked in my country for the past 4 years. It's safe to say he's made his permanent home here. Because of the dynamics of his family, I rarely get to meet them because they all live in different countries. During our 5-year relationship, I barely met his parents 2 to 3 times and never met his older brother and his wife. On the other hand, I see his younger brothers frequently because they are currently studying in my native country, and we are really close. Fast forward to May of this year, when my now husband and I chose to get married in my home country. All of his family flew here to attend the wedding, and I met my husband's older brother and his wife for the first time. The first awkward incident with my SIL occurred when I went to the airport with my husband to pick her and my BIL up a few days before our wedding. When we first met, I extended my hand for a handshake, expecting a full, strong handshake, to my SIL, and she literally just used the tip of her fingers to touch my hands. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like when you don't really want to touch someone's hand during a handshake face with tears of joy. Following that, she walked right past me and hugged my husband. On the other side, my BIL is really welcoming and thrilled to finally meet me. He hugged me and said it's great to finally meet you. His warmth made me forget about my SIL's rudeness and we moved on. In the days leading up to the wedding, my SIL makes subtle remarks about the wedding, criticizing every element we choose from the flowers to my wedding dress. For everyone's information, I come from a financially secure family that owns a business. My parents supported half of the wedding costs while the other half was covered by myself and my husband. My husband is a doctor and I work as an engineer. One thing that frustrates me is how my SIL keeps telling me how fortunate I am to have a wealthy family to mooch off from, and I'm sure throwing a lot of tantrums at my parents given how enormous and luxurious the wedding is. But it's always so subtle that it wouldn't start a fight but enough to make me uncomfortable. For background, my BIL and SIL are also both financially well off. My husband's family was similarly financially comfortable to begin with. My BIL is an accountant and my SIL occupies a management position in a company. She is also a lifestyle influencer with quite a large following on Instagram, and they live in Dubai. You know how expensive the city is. Fast forward to September of this year, my husband and I received an invitation from my BIL and SIL for a gender reveal party and baby shower in October, which occurred a few days ago. We were ecstatic and decided to book our flights to Dubai immediately after receiving the invitation. For your information, there will be 2 separate events, a gender reveal party for BIL, SIL and their respective families/acquaintances, and a baby shower for my SIL and her female family members and acquaintances the following day. I was invited to both parties and I was supposed to attend the baby shower without my husband, which I believe was a nice opportunity to bond with my SIL. But then, my SIL contacted my husband one day before the gender reveal party and informed him that I was not invited to the baby shower. The reason is that she does not want me to draw attention away from her during the event. My husband and I were plainly perplexed as to how and why would I be diverting attention away from her. And her reason is that no one knows or has ever met me, so they will ask, and she does not want to spend time explaining who I am to her guests. Because my husband and I do not want to cause unnecessary drama, we just agreed that I will only attend the gender reveal party with him. On the day of the gender reveal party, I went with my husband and my SIL did not speak with me at all or even recognize my presence. I tried to make small chat to congratulate her, but she just blew me off each time. My BIL on the other hand is as friendly as ever, thankfully. When the party appeared to be coming to an end, I went out to the car to get the gift I had purchased, apparently for the baby shower, but because I would not be attending the baby shower the next day, I decided to give it to her that day. During that time, the guest began to leave, and when I handed her the gift, she screamed at me loudly. The first thing she said was, "Don't you have manners?" I was clearly taken aback and bewildered. She then accused me of attempting to assert dominance by flaunting my wealth and rubbing it in her face as well as looking down at her. For those who are curious about the present I bought, I purchased a baby blanket and sleeping bag from Dior, and the present is in the Dior shopping bag. I felt humiliated after being screamed at and my blood was boiling at the time. I yelled back in rage, asking her what I did wrong to deserve to be treated so disrespectfully by her. I said that her insecurities were not my responsibility and that if she despised me that much she should not have invited me in the first place. She appears stunned by my words and begins crying. Both my husband and BIL rushed towards us to calm us down. My husband suggested that we leave as well as some guests had already begun to leave. It happened 3 days ago, and since then everything has been quiet. Nobody said anything, and now I feel horrible for yelling at a pregnant woman. Update, November 17, 2024, almost 1 month later. It had been a month since my last post, and now I have the opportunity to provide an update, finally. First and foremost, I would like to thank everyone who commented and supported me in my previous post, and I apologize for not being able to respond to each and every one of you. By the way, my husband and I have returned safely to our home. After a few days of silence following what happened at the gender reveal party, I eventually sat down with my husband to discuss it. We had an honest discussion in which I expressed how mean my SIL has been to me, and my husband ended up apologizing for not standing up for me while subconsciously knowing how my SIL has treated me. As I mentioned in my previous post, my husband comes from a household without a girl sibling, and for the past 12 years, SIL has been like a sister to him, leaving him torn between speaking out against her and sticking up for me. He said he didn't expect things to go so bad because we live in separate countries and won't see each other much. We resolved our conversation with him promising to have my back if something like this happened again. In the same week, my husband and I had the opportunity to speak with my BIL through video call. SIL was not present. I know not everyone would agree with my apology, but I did apologize to BIL for causing a scene by yelling at their gender reveal party. To my surprise, BIL it was fine, and he remarked she had it coming, faced with tears of joy. Following that, BIL apologized to me on behalf of SIL as well as for turning a blind eye to what had been going on between me and SIL. We discussed what might be the source of SIL's hatred for me, and to my surprise it appears to be tied to the fact that SIL believes I am taking over the position of daughter-in-law in the family from her. She has been the only SIL for my husband's brothers, and she believes I am taking over the role. As I previously stated, my husband's younger brothers have been studying in my home country since early this year, and we have had many opportunities to spend time together. According to BIL, SIL believes the brothers have been pulling away from her and become closer to me. For information, the brothers are 22 and 16 years old. Adding to the unpredictable pregnant hormones, she believes I'm buying the brothers' love by spoiling them with materialistic items. BIL stated that she had mentioned her concern to him several times previously, but he did not expect her to take it seriously and always dismissed it. He apologized again and stated that he will discuss it with SIL after her feelings have been resolved. According to BIL, SIL has been acting as if nothing has happened, so he is also unsure when it is appropriate to bring the issue to the table. We ended the video chat on a positive note, and I promised BIL that I would speak with the brothers and perhaps encourage them to contact SIL to see how she is doing so she does not feel left out. And as for SIL, I haven't spoken to her yet, and to be honest I'm not sure I ever will. My husband and I have decided to move on from this situation and focus on our own lives. I believe that is all the updates so far, and to be honest I could use some suggestions on how to fix my relationship with my SIL. Should I reach out to her or something?